Hello and welcome to the Healthy Education Podcast, coming to you out of health education at the Athens City County Health Department. I'm your host, Ward Bryson, the ComCore member serving with the Health Education Department this year, and I am supported by Logan Lambert behind the scenes, our sound tech, who is a ComCore member serving at Nelsonville York Schools. The goal of this podcast is to sit down and have a conversation with people who are working and serving in Athens County in order to get a better understanding of the contributions that they make to the community and how those contributions bring us towards healthier futures. This podcast is based out of the Health Education Division at Athens City County Health Department, which works to make the health choice the easy choice through policy, system, and environmental changes. Logan and myself are both serving members of ComCore, a local state national branch of AmeriCorps based out of Ohio University's Heritage College of Osteopathic Medicine, which places members throughout Athens County in order to contribute to community health in a variety of ways, many of which we'll examine during this podcast. Today, our guests are Raya, Abner, and Ravi, Harley from Community Food Initiatives. Raya, Ravi, how are you today?
I'm great.
There was a moment where the two of them looked at each other and decided who should answer first. So I will direct my questions to individuals starting now. Raya, how are you today?
I am doing wonderfully. Thank you for having us today, Ward.
Of course. And this is not the first time that we've had you. I'm going to let the audience know because they may have been expecting this podcast. I did mention a CFI podcast in the works several weeks ago. We've recorded this once now, and there was some audio corruption. And so this is take number 2. So I expect that we're pretty much on script now. We're experts here. I know everything that Ray is going to say before she says it. I don't know everything Ravi's going to say because Ravi bears a great wisdom that I cannot match. We apologize on the delay of getting this episode out, but there were some audio corruption issues. Here we are, though, with Ray and Ravi from CFI. What does each of you do at CFI? Ravi, if you could answer first.
Yeah, so I am the Food Access Coordinator, ComCore member at Community Food Initiatives. So I have a very broad position that sort of just helps with all of the distribution, donation station, veggie van aspects of Community Food Initiatives, as well as educational outreach to community members with regards to like cooking and knowing how to prepare the local produce that we're providing to people.
Okay. Raya?
I am the Community Gardens Coordinator, ComCore member at Community Food Initiatives. So very broadly, I manage 4 community garden spaces around Athens and Nelsonville. And I'm sure we'll get into it later where those garden spaces are and what it entails to be a gardener. But I serve as the liaison between CFI and our community gardeners. And since our team is very interdisciplinary, I get to work on a lot of other projects with my fellow ComCore members at CFI. We also have a school gardens member, so I also frequently help out in school gardens as well.
Okay. Ray, could you tell us a little bit about yourself personally, how you found your way into this role, how you found your way into this community?
Yeah, so I'm originally from Cincinnati, Ohio, and I did not expect that I would end up in Athens. I went to Ohio University, and I actually have an English degree from there. And I spent my college years not really knowing what I wanted to do. I thought I might teach, but I wasn't really attracted to the idea of teaching English. And somewhere along the way, I learned about AmeriCorps, and I started getting interested in that and serving. But during undergrad, I interned at a local nonprofit in Athens called United Campus Ministry, and part of my internship there was doing their free community meals program. So they have free community meals every Thursday, every Saturday, and I did that for a summer. Athens summer is very beautiful, and you get to see a side of the community that you may not because a lot of students are away. And being at those community meals, I really fell in love with bonding with people over food and getting to see that, just getting to see the magic that happens when people are sitting at a table together eating. And what's really cool is that UCM also sources food from CFI. They're one of our partners that pick up at distribution every Tuesday. So I sort of got to learn the ins and outs of where food was coming from and get exposed to our local food system. So just from having that experience, I started to get interested in our local food and food justice. So that was something that was already on my radar. And by the time my senior year came around, I was still interested in serving in AmeriCorps. And someone I had interned with at UCM was the partner of the person who was in my position before me. So it kind of all just fell into place. They were like, we're about to move away. This position was opening. And I was interested in it, definitely for the food justice part. But also, I did not know how to garden at all, and I really wanted to learn how to garden. That was just a very personal and even spiritual thing that I wanted to integrate into my life by reconnecting to the earth, reconnecting with nature. So I was very passionate about wanting to get into gardening and find that therapeutic outlet for myself. And that's something I integrate into my work to this day. I really like seeing our community gardens as healing spaces.
I think that's really cool, and it really speaks to the capacity for change and growth that these positions don't just have for our communities, but also for the people that are serving and working and doing these things. Like you said, you did not know anything about gardening, and now you're headed into your third year of ComCorps in the same position very soon. So that's very impressive and very cool.
Thank you.
Ravi, can you give us an introduction to who is Ravi? How'd you get here? What was your relationship to this community before starting, and has it changed at all?
Yes, Raya had such an eloquent answer. I don't think I'll be able to compare, but I'm originally from Kent, Ohio, so northeast, and I went to school here at Ohio University in Athens and studied biology and environmental studies, and through that I became interested in specifically like science, communication, and outreach, and also public health. And that's why I sort of wanted to get involved with AmeriCorps as a way to sort of hone those outreach and communication skills, because I feel like that's something that I didn't really get through just like my classroom studies. I also, like Raya, had some experience with community outreach through like meals and food drives and things like that in the area, because that is like one of the bigger issues that is like prevalent in Athens County is the food security. And so applying to AmeriCorps, I was like looking at a few different positions, and then community food initiatives seemed like a good match because it is a broad range of outreach. There is some science to it with the gardening and the education that we do in both the schools and with community members. And it was a really great hands-on opportunity, I think, as well.
Okay, great. So we have Ravi. You're here. You both said you do a lot of things, but you're here mostly to talk about the donation station. And Raya, you're here mostly to talk about the gardens. Why don't we lead into, before we do that, what CFI is? And I'm going to ask that of Raya, since you are a senior member.
Yeah, so CFI is a local nonprofit, mostly focused in Athens, but we also serve some neighboring counties, Meigs, Hocking County. And our overall mission is to ensure healthy local food for all. So we have a lot of different programming that helps us achieve this. It ranges from everything from our donation station food distribution, and Ravi will talk more about what that looks like. But also we have community garden spaces around the community to offer places for people to grow their own food, to support them in doing that. We have school gardens in the local schools, so we go into schools and we teach first graders and sixth graders about gardening, where their food comes from, so they can go home and share that with their families. And then we also have our Nourishing Networks programming, so we also go into local communities and facilitate conversations on food justice, what sort of assets and barriers that the communities around us have when it comes to food justice, and how we as an organization can meet those needs. So we started back in 1992. This is our 30th year as a nonprofit, and I believe we've been hosting AmeriCorps members for the past 12 years.
That's a long history. So ComCorps, our program, has been going for 22 years, something like that?
Yeah, I think so.
So about half that time. what is CFI's mission? Unless you said it already, that's my bad.
Oh, yeah. I said to ensure healthy local food for all.
Okay. Admirable. And you do that in very different ways. So, Ravi, what is the donation station?
So the donation station is essentially a middleman between local produce growers and food manufacturers in Athens, and the food pantries and other organizations in the area. So we have all of these farmers in Athens County that are growing a lot of food, but it's just hard for people to get to the places that they're either selling it or growing it. And so we go to those places, including the Chester Hill Produce Auction and the Farmers Market, as well as collecting stuff from local community members who just grow food in their own garden. And then we'll divide that out and distribute it to both food pantries, public libraries, and other nonprofits and government organizations in the county.
Such as the health department.
Yes.
So I pick up weekly, and usually Ravi is there. And this is out of AceNet, where CFI is based, AceNet Athens. And, right, so all these people are driving up for 2 hours in the morning on Tuesdays.
Yeah.
Coming in cycles, just picking up big old boxes of produce. We use ours actually at our harm reduction clinic. So the next day on Wednesdays, I set it out, and we hand it out to folks that are suffering with addiction and are maybe seeking treatment, just seeking safe ways to navigate that. You mentioned the Chester Hill Produce Auction. What is that, for those that don't know?
So the Chester Hill Produce Auction is a auction that is run by Rural Action that collects a lot of produce that is primarily Amish grown in Chester Hill. There's also some other farmers that bring produce there. And it's just basically a center for people to buy a lot of produce in bulk. And so it allows more produce to be sold than would probably be able to be sold individually. And so that's a great way for restaurants and organizations like us to get a lot of produce to supply whatever our initiatives are.
Okay. And could you also explain, just for on your end, how does it look when you're at the farmers market and you're connecting with farmers to take that excess produce and repurpose it to your needs?
Yep, so we just set up a stand. We'll be collecting monetary donations, and then we'll take those monetary donations and spend them at the farmers market the next week on produce from the farmers. And then we'll also accept donations from either patrons at the market who buy produce that they want to donate, or the farmers, if they have produce left over afterwards that is extra, they'll donate that as well.
Okay. So there's a lot of different ways that you are sourcing this produce, but it is all coming from local farmers, either at the farmers market or Chester Hill.
Yes.
Great. Other than, like we said, donating at the farmers market, how can folks contribute or plug into the donation station?
So, like I said, we always take donations, but we also have volunteer opportunities for people. There's ways to get involved with every aspect of the donation station, from the collection, sometimes harvesting at the farms of the produce, to the prep for distribution, separating everything out, to the distributions themselves. So if people want to get involved, it really is like a community organization. Although we work for CFI, the point is to empower people to take control of their own food system. So any way that you would like to be a part of the things that we do, that is open to people.
Okay, great. Back to Raya. Can you tell us a little bit about CFI's community gardens? What are they, for starters?
Yeah, so we have 4 community garden spaces. There are 3 that are open to anyone in the community, and 1 garden that is specific to one neighborhood. There are 3 in Athens, 1 in Nelsonville. So we have the Southside Community Garden, which is open to anyone. It is just off Richland Avenue in the Campus Heights apartment complex. The other Athens garden we have that is open to the community is the Eastside Garden, which is just off East State Street, right by the community dog park over there. And then we have our Nelsonville Garden, which is just behind the Mary Hill Center. It's at 1950 Mount St. Mary's Drive for reference. And that's also open to anyone in Nelsonville and Athens if they want to commute. And then we have our Hope Drive Community Garden. So that is very specific to the Hope Drive community. It's a low-income housing complex, so we do a lot more interdisciplinary programming there. Everything from using the community garden space to teach folks about gardening and growing their food, to holding produce distributions there through donation station, to having gardening workshops and cooking workshops. So those are the 4 gardening spaces and their locations. But how it works is at the beginning of the gardening season, anyone can reach out to me and email me and say they want a plot, and we will rent plots out to them for the year. So it's $25 per plot, or it's free for anyone who is low income. And by paying that fee, people subscribe to getting shared tools on site, as well as water, compost, mulch, and other gardening materials we might have on site, things like tomato cages and stakes and things like that. But it is my role as well to be a support system for the gardeners as they come in. So around this time we have our free seed packet giveaways and our free plant start giveaways. Both of those just concluded, but in April and May of every year we have those, and that is also an opportunity for my gardeners and for people in the community to get access to free seeds and free plant starts going into the season.
So that's not just promoting gardening with you all, that's just promoting gardening anywhere in Athens County.
Yeah. So as much as we'd love to bring people into our gardens to garden, our overall community gardens mission is we just want to empower people to be able to have their own space, to know how to grow their own food, and to give them the tools to do so. We have actually talked as an organization, and we're talking about possibly doing this summer, opening up the opportunity for us to have a consultation with folks in the community who can come to us and sort of ask questions about gardening. And frequently we have people reach out to us and they really want to have their own garden at their site, and we don't always have the capabilities to start a new garden, but we try to have an open conversation with organizations that reach out to us. If they can't rent a plot in our garden and they just want to garden on their own site, we're happy to get them started and give them the supports they need to get up and going on their own.
That's amazing. In terms of the demographics that you serve and that that are your gardeners, really, you said that there are free access for people who are low income.
Yeah.
Do you see a lot of people using that?
I do. Yes, absolutely. I have folks who, specifically at the Southside Garden, who are living in the Campus Heights complex, who will use the gardening space there. And a lot of folks who are living there are low income. They're either working families or students. And yeah, they're what we qualify as low income. We want to just eliminate as many barriers as possible. We don't want anyone to feel like they can't be a part of our garden. But yes, I do have a lot of people in our community who take advantage of that, which is really awesome.
That is great, yeah. Are there any volunteer opportunities at the gardens, Raya?
Yes, absolutely. I would say our gardens are our biggest volunteering base at CFI. So every week I have weekly work parties at each garden, at Southside, Eastside, and Nelsonville. I have a 2-hour time slot that I block out at each of these gardens every single week, and this is an opportunity for volunteers to join me on site at each of these gardens and to do general garden maintenance or to help community gardeners with certain things they might need done in the garden. So not only are these work parties an opportunity for volunteers to come get some gardening experience with us, it's also an opportunity for community gardeners to come on site every week and see me in person and communicate their needs. And of course, our volunteers don't have to have any knowledge of gardening. We'll help them, we'll guide them through the basics and let them know what we're doing on site each day. So There's nothing intimidating in being a part of these work parties. It's all good fun, and there's lots of room for trial and error and experimenting.
And that's true to some extent of your gardeners as well.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, we do a lot of organic, sustainable gardening in the CFI gardens. We don't use any pesticides or anything like that, so we do have to do a lot of experimenting with dealing with things like pests or really hot weather like we're dealing with this week.
Okay. Well, thanks both of you for telling us about the programs that you look over at Community Food Initiatives. Are there any other opportunities that you think folks should know about to get involved at CFI, even outside those programs?
We do have internships, so if there are any OU students or generally anyone in the community who is looking for professional experience, they can reach out to CFI. We have our AmeriCorps positions. We have a Vista position and 3 ComCorps members. And of course, we won't be around all the time. Next year will be probably my last year, I'm thinking. So these are opportunities that will open up in the future to get professional experience with CFI. And you get to see a little bit of everything, all of the in and outs to how a small nonprofit runs. Like I said earlier, we're a very interdisciplinary team, so we do a lot of things together. And I may be the community gardens coordinator, but I get to also work on donation station stuff and Discovery Kitchen. So you get to see every aspect of the local food system by being at CFI. So there's volunteer opportunities, there's internship opportunities, AmeriCorps positions, a little bit of everything.
What would be the... Oh, sorry, Ravi.
We also have our Nourishing Networks, which is essentially a training to help community members become food access and food system organizers within their own communities. So sort of taking that role from us and like empowering community members to undertake it themselves. And for that, you could find out more about that on our website at communityfoodinitiatives.org. We do workshops in different towns throughout Athens County, starting with trainings, and then it'll move into sort of planning for what you would want to do within your own community and helping you to organize that sort of initiative.
Okay, great. Do either of you know who would be the great contact for our listeners for that? Raya?
I know when it comes to volunteer opportunities, the best contact is either Susie Huger, who is our community outreach director, and her email is donationstation@communityfoodinitiatives.org. People can also reach out to me directly if they're interested in gardening, whether that's volunteering or renting a plot, and they can reach me at gardens@communityfoodinitiatives.org. But if folks are interested in things like Nourishing Networks or volunteering, we also have a Facebook and Instagram pages, so just search Community Food Initiatives. And you can also reach us through there by commenting or messaging. We are very responsive.
Okay, sounds great. I hope that all of our listeners reach out and try and get involved. Again, thanks both of you for showing up today. Thanks for having this conversation with me. I really appreciate you showing up.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much, Ward.
No problem. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in once again. Everybody, have a great week.